So, sir, again, before the agreement you made with the state, before the deal you made with the state, your maximum exposure here was life in Florida State Prison.
Those words from the judge hit in a whole different way once the reel started spreading, because the vibe shifted instantly. Bortland already made his move, switching sides without warning, and people are saying he allegedly leaked over 200 clips of YNW Melly footage straight from inside the courtroom. Prosecutors claim those clips show tension, intimidation, and clear moments where court orders were not followed. Rumors are flying that this footage could be the reason Melly might never touch the streets as a free man again, because this level of exposing turned everything upside down. The courtroom energy surrounding YNW Melly's double murder trial has already turned into one of the most chaotic and heavily analyzed legal battles in modern hip-hop history. Every single appearance from Jamel Demons, widely known as YNW Melly, brings fresh attention, new theories, and non-stop controversy. But the discovery that his co-defendant, Cortland Henry, known publicly as YNW Bortland, has allegedly leaked more than 200 clips of Melly inside the courtroom pushed this drama to a whole new level. These clips, according to online talk and viral posts, show moments where Melly appears to be directing threats toward Bortland, even while sitting under the full watch of the court. The weight of these accusations puts the spotlight not only on Melly's behavior, but also on the survival strategy of someone who used to be his closest ally. This same man, prosecutors say, helped cover up a brutal double killing that sits at the center of the entire case. The story traces back to the night of October 26, 2018 in Miramar, Florida. Prosecutors claim Melly shot and killed two friends, Christopher Thomas Jr., YNW Juvie, and Anthony Williams, YNW Sack Chaser, while the group sat inside a gray Jeep driven by Bortland. In court, the state made it clear they believe this wasn't random, but a planned execution followed by a staged drive-by meant to throw investigators off the scent. The prosecutor's opening statement came out sharp, setting the tone immediately with a blunt explanation. According to the state, Bortland then drove the bodies to Memorial Miramar Hospital while sticking to the story of a drive-by shooting. Detectives combed through Miramar Parkway from end to end and didn't find a single shell casing, no shattered glass, and zero ballistic proof to back up the story, which shook the whole timeline. Instead, as laid out in that opening statement, investigators decided the entire scene looked staged from the jump. But then came one of the most questionable twists in the entire YNW Melly case, because YNW Bortland locked in a deal on September 9, 2025, just hours before his own trial was supposed to blast off. This move had people calling it straight bogus, especially in a case the whole community has watched unfold for more than 6 years. And the talk is that it might put serious pressure on his former day one, YNW Melly. For real, this moment landed heavy because Cortland Malik Henry, known as YNW Bortland, was staring down a lifetime behind bars before this dramatic flip. Bortland had been facing 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of accessory after the fact, witness tampering tied to a major felony, directing gang-related activity, conspiracy to commit tampering, and unlawful use of a communication device. The judge made it crystal clear how serious the situation was. But then, prosecutors dropped a move that had everyone in shock. They offered Bortland a deal that erased the murder charges if he pled no contest to accessory after the fact and witness tampering. For someone who was expecting to grow old in a cell, this offer was wild to see. This whole exchange showed how the state was playing chess while others were moving like it was a different game. Bortland ended up with a 10-year sentence, with credit for roughly 4.5 years already served, plus 6 more years of probation after release. That means he could realistically return home around January 2032 instead of never stepping outside again. But here's where things get seriously spicy and dangerous, especially for Melly, because this deal changed everything. This plea agreement comes with a heavy detail that a lot of suburban folks might overlook, and that's the proffer requirement. This isn't some soft my bad moment. It's a sworn breakdown where Bortland has to lay out everything about what really happened on October 26, 2018, when Anthony aka YNW Sack Chaser Williams and Christopher aka YNW Juvie Thomas lost their lives. The judge's words were direct, making it clear this whole truth-telling session wouldn't mess up Bortland's plea deal.
This defendant shot and killed 2 of his friends. He killed Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams.
The very fact that this session is required shows exactly what the authorities are trying to pull from him. Bortland's lawyer keeps saying he isn't required to testify against Melly, but this proffer could still drop major details that the prosecution has been missing from the start. The forensic evidence in this case has been painting a messy picture since day one. Ballistics investigators showed bullets hit the victims from close range, with angles that match shots being fired from inside the vehicle, not from some passing car like a drive-by. Things got even more suspicious when investigators found spent shell casings inside the whip, including one tucked in a white plastic bag, hinting that somebody might have been trying to hide something. But one of the heaviest pieces of evidence has always been the digital trail. Phone records and GPS data revealed all 4 devices stayed together the whole time, shutting down any story claiming Melly got dropped off somewhere else before the shooting. Even worse, Melly allegedly sent an Instagram DM hours after the incident, replying to someone asking if he was okay with, "I did that." Now, with Bortland's deal in play, the prosecution suddenly has confirmation from the only other survivor of that night. By pleading no contest to accessory after the fact, Bortland is basically admitting a killing happened and that he helped cover it up. This isn't just about skipping trial. It's about the prosecution finally getting someone from inside that vehicle to line up with their whole case. And the timing of this flip is wild because Bortland's trial was supposed to start the very next day, September 10th, 2025. The judge made it clear the pressure was on. The last-minute timing of this plea deal shows that Bortland's legal team finally realized how stacked the evidence was against him, and they saw he was on track to get hit with multiple life sentences if he walked into that trial. The prosecution had reportedly thrown out earlier offers, including a 16-year sentence, but those deals expired before he grabbed them. The wild part is that the final deal he ended up taking was even better, which makes it clear prosecutors were trying hard to lock in his cooperation before Melly's retrial kicked off. The emotional weight behind this betrayal can't be ignored. Melly and Bortland were day one brothers from Gifford, Florida, rising up together in the music world as part of the YNW movement. They weren't just business partners. These two shared real dreams of leaving the struggle behind through their music. So the fact that Bortland chose his own freedom instead of staying loyal to someone he grew up with feels like a tough blow that cuts straight through the no-snitch culture that's been rooted in hip-hop for decades. Even the judge sounded shocked at how smooth of a deal Bortland's team negotiated. That reaction shows prosecutors were willing to bend heavy if it meant securing the cooperation they believe is crucial for the case against Melly. As this situation moves forward, it's important to understand that this plea deal ain't just one defendant catching a break. It's a major strategic win for prosecutors who've been building this case for more than 6 years. It might even give them the final puzzle pieces that they need to lock down a conviction in one of the most high-profile cases in recent years. But the part that could really shake Melly's whole defense is the required proffer session. The most damaging piece of Bortland's deal isn't just admitting he helped after the fact, it's what he has to reveal next. That proffer could break down the defense strategy in ways people aren't ready for, especially those watching from the outside who don't realize how big this could hit during the retrial. In legal terms, a proffer is known as a queen for a day session, where a defendant gives sworn details about what they know in exchange for limited protection from further charges. Now Bortland has to give a full proffer explaining his role in everything tied to the October 2018 shooting. And even though his attorneys say this doesn't force him to testify against Melly, the real situation is way more complicated and could turn extremely dangerous.
Let me set the scene for you at the recording studio, because there's actually 8 young men there. You're going to hear they arrived at the recording studio, not much was getting done. They were tired. They left at 3:19. and they got into two vehicles. So first vehicle is a red Mitsubishi SUV. In that red Mitsubishi SUV, 4 individuals get into it. Travion Glass, Dontavius Withers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis. They are in the red Mitsubishi. In the gray Jeep, you have the driver, Cortland Henry, rear driver's side passenger, Jamel Demmons, Anthony Williams in the front seat, and Cortland Henry, again, the driver, Christopher Thomas in the rear.
Detectives and forensic specialists from Melly's first trial described what they believed was a carefully planned cover-up led by the people in that vehicle. Prosecutors claimed that after the victims were shot inside the car, Melly and Bortland drove out to a remote spot near the Everglades to stage a fake drive-by attack. They allegedly fired extra shots into the car from the outside to make it look like they were ambushed, then took the bodies to different spots before finally arriving at the hospital. Through this proffer, Bortland now has to lay out his version of every step under oath. This isn't just about admitting to helping after the incident. It's about giving a detailed sworn description that could fill in major gaps in the state's timeline. Even if Melly doesn't flat out say Melly pulled the trigger, his explanation of the aftermath could still support key parts of what prosecutors are claiming.
Mr. Henry, I'm not quite sure how your lawyers managed to do this, but I wish you good luck, sir.
The strategy becomes clear once you look back at Melly's defense plan from the first trial. His attorney said Melly wasn't even inside the vehicle when the shooting happened, saying he was dropped off earlier during the drive. That "not in the car" argument was huge, because if jurors believed it, Melly would have been cleared. But now, Bortland's proffer could directly place Melly inside the vehicle and confirm he played a role in what happened afterward. The forensic evidence already went against the drive-by story. Investigators found all the shell casings inside the car, with angles showing the shots came from the rear left seat, the same spot surveillance from the studio placed Melly before they pulled off. But forensic evidence can always get debated or reinterpreted, while a sworn statement from the only other survivor is way harder to knock down. This could hit several pieces of Melly's defense in a devastating way. First, the timeline gets locked in tight. Phone data and GPS already traced the movements of all 4 devices that night, but there were still gaps about when certain moments happened and in what order. Bortland's proffer gives a minute-by-minute breakdown from someone who was actually there, making it much tougher for the defense to build alternative timelines or raise doubts about how the night unfolded. Second, the motive question might finally get answered. One of the biggest weaknesses in the prosecution's case has been the missing explanation for why Melly would turn on someone he grew up with. People have thrown around theories about money issues tied to the YNW brand or other personal tensions, but nothing solid has ever been confirmed about what sparked the violence. Bortland's proffer could drop key details about arguments, threats, or rising tension inside that vehicle before the shooting went down. Third, and possibly the most damaging, the proffer could destroy the core of Melly's defense. If Bortland confirms Melly was in the car during the shooting and took part in staging the scene afterward, it becomes nearly impossible for the defense to keep arguing he had no involvement. They'd be forced to switch from proclaiming innocence to trying to soften the blow, maybe arguing for lesser charges or different circumstances instead. The psychological pressure from all this can't be ignored either. Melly filed a motion for new lawyers right after Bortland's plea deal, saying he had major disagreements with his current team. That move shows just how deeply Bortland's decision shook everything and forced Melly's side to rethink their entire strategy.
But then what you're going to see is the cell phone evidence. The digital leash. The item that is carried around in everyone's pocket, in everyone's car, you use on a daily basis. Because you're going to see, as Jamel Demmons leaves that recording studio, he's got his phone in his hand, and he's playing on his phone. You're going to see on that phone information that Anthony Williams had his phone with him. Not only do they have the same make and model of cell phone, they are on the exact same cell phone plan. They're using the same service, the same cell towers, everything like that. So you can compare the information from those two cell phones and see how they track together.
When your co-defendant, someone you saw as a day one, decides to work with the authorities, it sends a loud message about how strong the case might be. And in hip-hop culture, this lands even heavier. The no-snitch rule is a core part of the culture, and Bortland choosing to cooperate, even in a limited way, is seen as a serious break from that code. While his attorneys keep saying he won't take the stand against Melly, the fact that he accepted a deal that includes a proffer already has plenty of people calling him a snitch in the streets. Some voices online, including content creator 1090 Jake, have questioned whether prosecutors even have a strong case, pointing to how long this situation had dragged on and the earlier mistrial as signs that the evidence might not be solid. But that view might be way too hopeful for Melly's defense team. The 2023 trial ended in a mistrial because the jury split 9-3, not for a full acquittal, but leaning toward lesser charges like manslaughter. That means most jurors still believed Melly had some level of involvement, even if they weren't sure it was planned out. And now, with Bortland cooperating, prosecutors walk into the retrial with way more fuel to work with. The proffer gives an inside account of what supposedly happened, filling gaps that might have created reasonable doubt the first time around. Even if Bortland never steps on the witness stand, his sworn proffer can still be used to support forensic evidence and help build a story that hits harder with jurors. The timing also works in the prosecution's favor. Melly's retrial has been pushed to January 2027, giving prosecutors a long stretch to study Bortland's proffer, adjust their timeline, hunt for new supporting evidence, and shape a stronger narrative for the courtroom. That extra prep time could be a game changer. Maybe the biggest strategic hit for Melly's side is this: Bortland's proffer wipes out one of the defense's main escape routes. In cases with multiple defendants, it's common for each person to blame the other to confuse jurors. But with Bortland now cooperating instead of fighting back, Melly can't push a blame the other guy angle anymore.
There is a lack of any evidence whatsoever to support that a drive-by happened on Miramar Parkway.
The psychological pressure on Melly has to be intense. He's been locked up since February 2019, over 6 years stuck in county while insisting he's innocent. Now he's staring down a retrial where the same day one friend he trusted might indirectly strengthen the case against him, and that kind of isolation and betrayal hits different. This kind of psychological pressure could seriously affect Melly's decision-making as the retrial gets closer, possibly pushing him to consider plea talks of his own. And the impact goes far beyond this one case. Bortland's choice to cooperate sends a loud message to defendants everywhere that loyalty has limits when a lifetime behind bars is on the table. This shift could shape how future high-profile cases are fought, especially in the hip-hop world where friendships and business often collide with criminal allegations. The final snake move and what it means for Melly's future is deeper than a simple plea deal. What we're seeing is the slow breakdown of a friendship, a music movement, and possibly YNW Melly's entire career. The ripple effects from this decision will echo through hip-hop for years, showing how fast loyalty can disappear when someone's whole life is on the line. The immediate fallout from Bortland's plea showed how wide the split between the former day ones had become. Within hours of accepting the deal, Bortland was moved to South Florida Reception Center, where intake photos captured him with his signature dreads chopped off. That moment felt symbolic, like he was shedding his old image and stepping into the role of a cooperating witness. The photo went viral instantly, sparking reactions across social media, with some people showing sympathy and others calling it proof he fell off heavy. But even more revealing was Melly's response. Just one day after Bortland's plea hearing, Melly filed a motion for new lawyers, saying he had major differences with his current defense team. That sudden move shows that Bortland's cooperation completely shifted the ground under his defense, forcing him to rethink everything with less than 2 years before the retrial hits. The cultural impact inside hip-hop circles is massive. Social media exploded with debates about Bortland's decision, showing how divided people are about cooperating with law enforcement. Some posts labeled him a snitch who broke the no cooperation code that's been part of hip-hop forever, while others said they understood why he chose his own survival over loyalty to someone who might have been involved in a deadly situation. Legal expert Safa Robinson Ferry's analysis shines a light on a reality a lot of people overlook, especially online. Plea deals almost never happen in a vacuum. There's usually quiet communication happening between both camps before anything gets finalized. That means Melly's team and Bortland's team likely talked behind the scenes, possibly even agreeing on what Bortland would reveal and what he wouldn't include in his proffer. This points to a calculated move, not some sudden collapse of loyalty. The strategic hit to Melly's defense is massive. With Bortland now cooperating, prosecutors suddenly have an insider's angle on how everything unfolded on October 26, 2018. Even if Bortland never steps into the courtroom to testify, and his lawyers keep saying he won't, his sworn proffer gives prosecutors a full blueprint they never had before. This roadmap lets them build a case that's cleaner, sharper, and way harder to tear apart. Think about how dangerous this could be when it links with the evidence prosecutors already had. They've got forensic proof showing the shooting happened inside the car, digital records placing all 4 devices together, and circumstantial signs of a staged scene. What they didn't have was someone who lived through it giving a detailed emotional narrative. Bortland's proffer fills that hole, giving jurors a story that connects the dots in a way cold evidence can't.
Look, I have a couple people around that I've been friends with forever, but they're not really involved in my life like that. They're not involved in my business, they're not involved in my day-to-day.
The victims' families wasted no time either. Their attorney already moved to secure Bortland's deposition for the wrongful death civil suits. That puts even more weight on him to stay consistent, because if his civil testimony doesn't match his criminal proffer, he risks perjury charges and losing his entire plea deal. That means he has every reason to be precise, detailed, and locked in with his statements. The timing makes this even heavier. With Melly's retrial now reset for January 2027, prosecutors get nearly 2 full years to rebuild their entire strategy around Bortland's account. This isn't just adding evidence, it's redesigning their whole playbook. They can shape opening statements and witness questions around a narrative from someone who was actually in the car that night. And the darkest part for Melly? Florida's updated death penalty law now allows non-unanimous jury decisions for execution. This raises the stakes to a whole new level. Where prosecutors once needed a unanimous jury to chase the death penalty, they now only need 8 out of 12 jurors, a massive shift that hits even harder when paired with Bortland's cooperation. This legal change turns Melly's retrial into one of the highest-risk courtroom battles the state has seen in years. The psychological weight of this betrayal on Melly is impossible to overlook. He's been locked up for more than 6 years waiting for trial, separated from most of the people he trusts. His mother has publicly said she barely gets to speak with him, and he's gone long stretches without phone privileges, leaving him completely cut off from support. Finding out that his closest friend and co-defendant chose cooperation over loyalty had to hit his mind like a hammer. This level of isolation could actually give prosecutors an advantage as the retrial gets closer. Sitting in a cell for years, knowing a day-one homie is now working with the state might make Melly more open to exploring a plea deal of his own. Legal analysts have pointed out that the prosecution already convinced 9 out of 12 jurors in the first trial, and that was without Bortland giving them anything to work with. The bigger picture for hip-hop is just as serious. This case has turned into a lesson about what can happen when street loyalty and commercial success collide in dangerous ways. The YNW collective used to symbolize the dream, young artists from Gifford, Florida, rising out of tough circumstances and turning talent into real opportunity. Their story was supposed to show triumph, unity, and elevation.
Instead, it's become a story of loyalty shattered and futures torn apart. Even industry insiders are saying this situation highlights how crucial it is to have the right people around you once fame starts building. A lot of artists feel pressured to bring their childhood circle into their success, but that can create risky situations when those friends aren't ready for the spotlight, the scrutiny, or the life-changing pressure that comes with fame and money. For Melly's last remaining supporters, hope is starting to fade fast. Some fans still stand on his innocence and point out what they think are weak points in the state's case. But the truth is clear. Bortland's cooperation has completely reshaped everything heading into the retrial. Prosecutors now have an insider's version of the story, backing up their forensic and digital communication trails, turning this into a potentially crushing case for conviction. The financial fallout is heavy, too. Melly kept dropping music from behind bars, including Young New Wave back in April 2024, but his earning power is basically locked down. A conviction would shut down his career for good and leave him unable to support his family, while opening the door for major civil payouts to the victims' families. And now, with the final chapter of this legal saga set for January 2027, the stage is ready for one of the most watched trials hip-hop has ever seen. Prosecutors are walking in with their strongest hand yet. Forensic evidence, digital communication trails, and now the cooperation of the only other survivor from that night in October 2018. For YNW Melly, a kid who dreamed of blowing up from Gifford, the American dream has flipped into a full American nightmare. His day one friend's betrayal may have sealed everything, turning him from a rising star into a warning story about loyalty, friendship, and the violent choices that change lives forever. As the hip-hop world watches and waits, one huge question hangs in the air. Will this be the move that finally brings justice for Sack Chaser and Juvie, or will Melly somehow survive the mountain of evidence stacking against him? The answer is just over a year away, but the damage to relationships, reputations, and entire futures is already locked in.
Sir, lastly, and I want to make it very clear on the record, and it's unrelated to this negotiated change of plea, I guess at some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be. What I want you to understand, sir, is I guess that's part of this negotiated resolution, but your answers to any of those questions, whatever they might be, have no bearing on me and have no bearing on this negotiated resolution. In other words, the deal you've negotiated is the deal you've negotiated, and that's the ballgame.
In the end, Bortland's plea deal became more than a legal move. It became the last page in the destruction of a bond that was once presented as unbreakable, a promise between brothers who swore they'd ride together until the end. If you want to dive deeper into stories just like this, hit one of the cards on your screen and check out another video. And if you're still locked in after all this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who's been following the case. Your support keeps these deep dive breakdowns coming, and trust, you don't want to miss what's next.